I am so excited to kick off this week, this month with Kathryn Rose. Welcome to the show, Kathryn.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Thank you. So Kathryn has an idea that I'm going to confess I had as well several years ago, but there were just too many moving pieces for my brain to kind of wrangle in. And so I'm super excited to talk to Kathryn about her latest project as well as her past project. She's got like everybody here on Boss Lady Monday. She's got a fantastic entrepreneurial past. She's worked on Wall Street. She's seen things that some of us have only seen about and heard about in the movies. So Kathryn, welcome. And we're going to jump right in. So
Sure.
One of the things you told me about before we hit record and started streaming live was about an upcoming project you have called WiseHer, correct?
Correct. WiseHer. Mm-hmm.
WiseHer, WiseHer.
Correct. Yes.
Right. So tell everybody a little bit about what WiseHer is and is going to be.
WiseHer is a technology platform that provides on-demand advice for women in business, career, and life. And the reason we started it was because, my background after the Wall Street meltdown, when I was on Wall Street, I had to reinvent myself and start a new career. I often call myself an accidental entrepreneur. I had no idea that I was ever going to even be an entrepreneur, right? Because I had been in financial services for 15 years. And so it wasn't even something that I was even thinking about. But like a lot of women, it ends up by circumstance, right? That we end up as entrepreneurs. So one of the challenges I had was in that reinvention, I didn't know anyone to kind of talk to about being an entrepreneur or building a business and things like that. So I had to really look through and start building a network and finding people. And, it hasn't gotten any better for women over the years. We've have a lot going on, right? We have kids, aging parents, even if it's fur babies, whatever it is, all the information about the running of the household falls on women. So we don't have a ton of time to go out there and really do a lot of networking and find the right people. So WiseHer provides users with access to what I call bona fide experts. So these are curated experts. So we hand select them, or I have people that I know and trust and have worked with for years that are finding them as well. So you can't just show up and be an expert. And you're able to then place a call, work with an expert one-on-one to get your questions answered, whatever it is. So I don't know about you, but me, I just want to talk to someone. I don't want to take a 6-week course or read a 1,500-word dissertation. I just want someone to talk to tell me, this is what you could do. This is how you can do it. And then I can move on with my life. So
yeah,
that's what WiseHer is.
Kind of like advice on demand, right? Or on Netflix, yes. Choose your menu and
exactly
and what you want. Yeah. So
yeah.
I'm gonna sort of pitch this back to you just to make sure I understood it. So it covers pretty much all areas: life, business, health. Does it cover health as well?
It does. It covers health really more under the auspices of your work-life integration and elder care, anything that will move you faster, farther, along in your business or your career. So we call it peak performance under health would be peak performance.
Okay, great. So let's say that I am about to go out and pitch some idea to an investor. Right. I might be able to come to WiseHer and sort of look through the menu or whatever and find someone who you can talk to who can say you need to have these 4 things in your pitch to your investor: an expert, a bona fide certifiable expert.
Exactly.
Am I understanding that correctly?
Yes, exactly. So you would come to the site, and we have overarching categories like tech startups or business strategy, and then you could search for someone who specializes in pitching to investors. And
that's awesome.
You can set up a call with them. You can even send them your pitch deck in advance, and they can review it. So when you get on the call, you're maximizing your time.
Awesome. That's fantastic. Yeah. So tell us about you talked a little bit about post Wall Street, post the mortgage meltdown, and you created this lane for you in the entrepreneurial space in this world for you. But talk a little bit about why it's so important. You hinted at this, but I think it's important to talk to a little bit more about why women, why WiseHer, why is it that women are so in need of this advice? Is it just because of the time crunch that we all have, and so it's really hard for us to consume all of that information, or what do you think?
I think that's a very large part of it, Kendrick. And the biggest piece though is, well, there's several pieces. So the access of, we look up in our companies or look around us, and we don't really see a lot of women that we can tap into. And we do communicate differently. If I go to my husband and I ask him a question, he'll say, well, you should just do this. And that's pretty much it. And, and I want to talk about it. I want to really kind of just get feedback and really discuss it. It's just a different way of communicating. Then the second challenge we have is this imposter syndrome, right? Either the real or perceived lack of education holds women back. How many times, I'm sure you as a top consultant and strategist and everything in sales, I'm sure you hear all the time, oh, if I only knew more, or I need a certification, or we go to apply for a job and it says you need 10 years experience. And we go, I only have 9 years, 11 months and 29 days. So I'm not applying for that job. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, those are two reasons. The third is what I call cognitive load, which I have referred to a little bit with you, the cognitive load of, what's in your head right now, right? What's in my head is my son's about to get off the bus and the dog needs the nails clipped, and my mom's unfortunately paraplegic. So she has some needs, and, everybody has needs, right? So we don't necessarily have the same ability to work 24/7. Like, it just doesn't happen. And then the fourth challenge we have is funding. So only 3% of the businesses get funding. And so as part of our business model, a percentage of the money that we make every year will go back into funding women in their pursuits, either business or career.
Yeah, what a great way to give back to the community as well. I think that this can be could potentially be an epidemic, and it may be just for women. Certainly, I can see that. But I can remember when I started my business 7 years ago, I kept thinking I just need to learn X.
Right.
And then when I learned X, I needed to learn Y. And when I needed to learn Y, then I needed to learn A and B. And it was, and I'm a learner it's one of my top 5 Buckingham strengths, if you will. And so I just wanted to consume. And I guess it was a little bit of that imposter syndrome. Like, I'm not comfortable enough putting myself out there until I have all of these pieces of information. So it certainly makes sense. One of the things I love about this model that you have is I feel like for me, there's so much information. It's hard to know where to go.
Right.
It's hard to know if people are as legit as they profess to be.
Yeah.
And so this sort of takes care of saves you time, takes care of a lot of the legwork for you. You vet the people. Is that accurate? Yes,
we absolutely do. So, I've been around the internet marketing space for almost 10 years now. And I know as an expert yourself, I'm sure you see a lot of these, make 6 figures in 6 months. I did it. You know what? That's not true. I'm sorry. It's not true. And it takes a lot of, maybe it is for some people, but it takes a lot of work to do that. And, making 6 figures, how much did you actually make out of that? Right. So I hear that a lot of times. Oh, I'm a 7-figure business. Really? Well, then, how come, you maybe only made 50,000 at the end of the day. Right. So it's a hard thing to kind of cull through those folks online and know who's real and who's not.
Yeah.
And so I think that was a challenge for me as well. And then there are people who really do make 6 figures and 7 figures. And, so you want to be able to tap into those people. I think that's one of the reasons I wanted to do this, is because I wanted to make sure that whoever we have in our network are people that I've resonate with values wise, that are legitimate experts in what they do, and they really have the desire to help, and they want to give back too.
Yeah, absolutely. So what's the biggest challenge for you as you put something together like this? What's been the hardest part, or what surprised you? Maybe those are 2 different questions.
Well, there are a number of challenges because when you're building a technology platform, it's not coming out of your own brain, right? So when you're a sales consultant or a marketing consultant, I would sit in the room and I can go through and talk to them about the specific sales strategy or marketing strategy, and that's one thing. But when I mentioned to you before we started the program that I did teach myself enough code to be dangerous,
Yeah.
because there are a lot of free coding classes out there that you can take, and I recommend that everybody try it at least. Just learn a little bit, because technology touches every single part of our lives, period, right? It's just the way it is. So I think that having to give up control is a challenge, because you're relying on other people a significant amount when I can't code the entire thing myself, right? So I think that would be it. Also, as a single founder, it's a little bit challenging because I am a huge collaborator. So I'm very fortunate that I'm able to tap into these experts that I'm even talking to you about, right? Putting on the network. So I can really tap into those people and their expertise to kind of supplement some of the things that I don't do well. I mean, not everybody does everything well. So I think to answer both of those questions, the biggest challenge, and I think a lot of women go through this too, is really giving up that control when you have to hire people and work with people.
Yep.
And two, you feel isolated, right? You're kind of in it by yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that, especially for people who are used to or who come from a corporate world where they went into an office every day, the isolation, I feel like, and not to be a pessimist, but the isolation gets worse. In the beginning, it's kind of nice to go into your office that may be off of your house or close to your house, and your staff be virtual, and there are a lot of benefits to that. But if you're an extrovert or you're used to having a team of people, the isolation is the real deal.
It is. But the great thing now, Kendrick, too, I don't know if you have them where you are, but the proliferation of co-working spaces.
Absolutely.
I mean,
yeah.
Back in the day, it was the only place you could really go was one of those Regis centers or whatever. And it was really, really expensive. And now, for a couple, maybe $20 or $100 a month, depending on how much you want to use it, you can have a desk and you can go in and I do. I have I have an office in my house. I've been working remotely for like 15 years, so I'm pretty used to it, but I have an office in my house, but I also got myself a spot at the co-working space because of that reason. And you get to tap into the other folks, that they have some of the similar challenges. There's men there too, right? We all have to be in this together.
We do.
Yeah.
Yeah. And one of my customers did that a couple of years ago. It was the first time I really saw that. And it hadn't yet made its way to where I live. And I was so intrigued by it. It's such a great option for people like us. So yeah, thanks for sharing that. So let's say that we've got people watching or listening and they're like, okay, this is a really cool idea. And I have an idea, not a competing idea, but I have an idea that I want to create my own technological platform to help people with, I'm making this up, but follow-up communication, right? I want to automate that. I want to build that out. I know no code, or maybe just enough code to be dangerous, not even quite dangerous, just enough code to be deadly. Where would they start? I mean, what you've undertaken is massive and it's so impressive. Where would somebody start with this ginormous idea?
Well, I would say that the first thing you need to do is learn the development process. You need to learn the language of development. And it's, I tell people sometimes it's like you bring your car into the mechanic and you say, there's a clunk in the engine, or you bring your car to the mechanic and say, I think that it's the alternator, right? And they're like, ooh, she knows what an alternator is.
Yes.
So it's just because, developers have certain limitations. They're really good they're really just good at coding, but they're not going to know how to design your site for the user experience. That's why they're so, just like with doctors, right? They have all these different specialties. Same thing with developers. You have the user experience people, and then you have the actual coders who make it happen behind the scenes. And then there's the back end developers in front. So you have all these different pieces and parts to put together. So there are a number of books out there. I can't think of one off the top of my head right now, but I can follow up with you. That are, and I actually found out about, I travel a lot, right? So any person I sit next to on a plane, I always chat them up because it's just who I am anyway. But this one gentleman, he gave me the name of this book. And so I went and I immediately downloaded it and I read it. And it was just really a good way to understand how does the development process work.
Awesome.
And yeah, and so I think that that would be the number one thing, because a lot of us think that, it's maybe in some ways like working with a graphic designer, right? But it's not. The design goes around the code.
Yep.
So I always talk about it too. So I did this major renovation of my house a few years ago, and it was, as you know, renovations are not a good time probably, right?
Mhm.
And so, but at the end, what happened was the kitchen cabinets went in, and I said, "Oh, well, where are the drawer pulls or the door handles?" And like, "Oh, you have to pick them." I'm like, "Wait, what? They didn't come with drawer handles?" So all of these things, right? And it came down to the door hardware. Like,
Yeah, that's a good analogy.
so that's the kind of thing. You can have the best code in the world, but if there's no drawer handle to pull it open and give people a way to get in, and the developers you hire are not necessarily going to have all of those skills.
Yeah, I think that's one of the biggest things I've learned too. I used to just think you hired a designer, a website designer, or a graphic designer, whatever that is, and it all just sort of took care of itself. No, there's so many moving pieces just within that process. It's kind of mind blowing to me. So that's a great suggestion. So let's flip the switch and say somebody here is watching and they're like, okay, look, I need help in X, whatever X is. And I don't have the time to do the legwork. I want to come to WiseHer and figure out who to hire. How would they get started? Tell us when WiseHer is launching, when people are going to have access to it, that sort of thing.
Well, we're going into beta next week to just what I like to talk. Well, it's not really even a beta. It's the beginning process where we're going to have friendlies come in and just break it, like schedule calls and do all these things, make sure the emails and everything's firing right. And then over the summer, we'll be going into more of a beta phase where it's functional and we feel comfortable with the way it is, and then we'll slowly start getting folks in. And then in September we'll do the big launch. But I have so much interest in it. It's funny, the experts who I've invited to be in it, they're saying to me, "I can't wait to use it," and I'm like, "Me either."
That's awesome. That's fantastic. And then if we've got people watching, because I know that we do, who think, all right, you know what? I'm a bona fide certified expert. I know my stuff. I need to be a part of this platform. What's the best way for them to reach out to you? I realize you have to vet them and all of that, but what's the best way to get on your radar?
Well, they can just email me directly, Kathryn@wiseher.com, Kathryn @wiseher.com. If they're interested, and just send me their information, their LinkedIn contact information, and I can go ahead and take a look at it. I mean, I think the thing for us is that it's hard to tell someone if they're not an expert. And a lot of women are maybe even uncomfortable owning the word expert, right?
Yes.
But
yes.
I have 25 years of sales and marketing experience. I have a pretty good expertise in it, right? So I'm going to own that. And so it doesn't mean that if you haven't been an entrepreneur forever, that you're not an expert. Maybe there's something in the entrepreneurial realm that you are an expert in, like maybe it's finance or getting investors or whatever.
Yep.
And on the career side, I am on the Advancing Women in Technology Council. And that's one of the reasons I put career in there, is because one of the biggest challenges in the tech industry is not only getting women into tech, but keeping them there. So if you want your resume reviewed, or you just want to talk to somebody about what's it like to be an engineer or a coder or in technology sales and marketing, they have an opportunity to step up as well. So
why is that? Well, I've heard that before, that one of the biggest challenges is getting women into tech fields and then keeping them there. What do you think the reason for that is?
Well, there's several reasons. One, by the time, and this comes from techgirls.org. They're an amazing organization that really focuses on middle school girls. Mm-hmm. By the time statistics show, by the time middle school rolls around, girls are very much into traditional female occupations. Yeah. So they're almost, steered that way. Right. And then as we get to a point where we start having families and kids, we leave and we don't come back. And a lot of that has to do with the old school male mentalities that are around us. I've known several women who, they were the only female on their time, and it just got to be too much. It's changing. So I just spoke at the Women in Tech Summit in Philadelphia, and there were 200 women, just one day, 500 total, but 200 women in one day, and they were all like coders and engineers. And and that companies are making a concerted effort to not only hire good talent, well, like I talked about that, that 9 years and 11 months. That's one of the things we're pushing for as Advancing Women in Technology and some of these others, is to remove those sorts of requirements. Hire for culture. You can train for skills, like those kinds of things. And that's why with WiseHer, when we give the portion back, it's not just for businesses, but let's say you want to take a coding class and you're a marketing person in a small company. They won't pay for it because it doesn't really have anything to do with your job. So you can apply to us and we'll send you to it, So we want to give opportunities for everyone, because there are certain professions that you have to be certified in.
Sure.
I know. Absolutely. So you have to be able to, get those services when you need them.
Yeah. That's fantastic. If you were going to give our audience, this is kind of a cliche type question, but our audience is full of entrepreneurs, mainly female, 90 to 95% female. One piece of advice about starting your own thing. So we talked a little bit about if you want to get in the tech world or if you want to, but just starting your own thing, what would that be?
I would say to really think through. I have a course called Solo to CEO. So in the Solo to CEO course, it really talks about the idea that how you need to think about and set things up. The idea that you have is just a small portion of what it takes to set up a successful business. And we have 11.6 million women-owned businesses in this country, and 80+% are small businesses. And when I say small business, I mean 2 employees or less. In the tech world, in the enterprise space, we say SMB, small businesses, it's 500 employees, right? Yep. Not with women. It's 2 employees or less. And the reason for that is a lot of the reason I started WiseHer, but it's also because we're not really thinking big. You want to build, if you're going to do something, you want to build a scalable business, because it can't always fall on your own shoulders all the time. It's too much. So really think through what the idea is, but again, that's only a portion of it. The rest of it goes around, like get your legal, self together, get your accountant and your bookkeepers. If you want to hire people, how are you going to hire them? There's so many options today with freelancers and things like that, but really think through what's the objective you're trying to reach and how can you get there?
Yeah. I think that, some of those things that I see a lot of people push aside, and they'll think, I'll do when, I'll do later, I'll do after this, I'll do that. Those things can end up coming back to bite you in the rear, because they end up somehow, some way, there's always some sort of money involved there. Either it's taxes you didn't pay or mistakes you made, or it just getting everything set up the right way. So that, and we used to say with Hallianna, my daughter, let's set her up to succeed. Let's don't keep her up till midnight, because, and then even when not that we would, but even when she was a baby, let's don't keep her up past her bedtime, because that doesn't set her up to succeed the next day. And so I think that the sexy stuff is, the big idea and the pretty website or whatever, but then you want to set yourself up to succeed as well, and give yourself the best chance to succeed. And that's with some of those, I think, first steps that oftentimes we go to steps 4 and 5 before we do kind of the foundational work. Would you agree?
Oh, absolutely. And that's what, it's one of the reasons I started the course, was because I've seen this so many times over the last 10 years working with women entrepreneurs that we're sometimes our own worst enemy. The other thing I would say too is, crawl before you walk, before you run. So with WiseHer, the big idea is that not only are we going to provide access to experts, but I built a chat bot so you can just come in and ask quick questions. And then we have fast track videos so you can quickly learn what you need in 5 minutes or less, kind of thing.
Awesome.
And so when I was starting WiseHer, I thought to myself, I have to launch with everything.
Yeah.
Right. And then I had like a 3:00 in the morning moment where I said, wait a second. What is the minimum that I can provide this group with that will help them instantly get what they need? And I can always add later.
Yep.
Right. So I ran a crowdfunding campaign. I'm very thrilled to say that, we hit our goal. We actually went over our goal, but I did that intentionally just to say, okay, I'm going to finish this piece. So when we launch, it's really going to be the connection with the experts. because that's what we know people can, get really, really quickly. And then in September, we'll be able to layer on the other pieces of it as we get funds in, as we get user feedback. We want to know how the experience is. Do we need to tweak anything? But I think a lot of women try to start with the whole, like, perfect is the enemy of good, or I think that's the
absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
So we don't, we want to do everything at once.
Yep. I agree.
Think about, boil it down to what is really going to serve your customer at the end of the day. And you can always serve them more later.
Yes.
What is the minimum that you can provide that will be in service to your audience and how you're helping them, and then bring on additional things later on.
What a great piece of advice. I think that is absolutely fantastic. So will you let us know when WiseHer, when it happens in September, let us know when it is ready for us to share how people can find their experts. And maybe even have you back on the show to talk about it and walk us through it a little bit. We'd love that.
Oh, I'd love it. Yeah, that'd be great. That would be great.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for being here. And listen, stop, look, and listen, everybody. If you have a dream, if you have an idea, I think our lesson of the day is drill it down. Start somewhere, drill it down into doable, even if it's bite-sized chunks, and take a step forward every day. Get the training you need, the education you need, whatever it is you need to make your dream come true.
Absolutely.
I believe in you, and I believe in your business. You can do this. Let's go.